Her designs are always a crowd puller at SA Fashion Week, and tonight we bring you the woman behind the fashion. This is Women on Wealth, and I'm Nozipho Mbanjwa. Tonight we profile Rubicon fashion designer Hangwani Nengovhela. We also speak to Anita Stanbury, the CEO of the South African National Fashion Council, to find out if women are ready to claim top honors in the South African fashion industry. And in Power Redefined, we bring you Loin Cloth and Ashes. That's designer Anisa Mpungwe. Hangwani Nengovhela is the vision behind the fashion label Rubicon, but the road to success has not always been easy. I sat down with a self-taught designer and seamstress to find out about her journey to becoming a fashion powerhouse.
I grew up literally in a household where my mother had the same type of business concept. She still has it, still running. I was like, she established it when I was like 7 years old, and obviously I will help out, maybe obviously keeping myself busy while I was still in primary school. So I would help her out in terms of creating probably sketches, just playing around. But obviously this has been like an inborn kind of, transition for me. It's not something like that I just woke up and said, oh,
But surely it must have been difficult, having been in corporate South Africa, which is where your parents probably guided you, for you to make that decision to say, in fact, I think I'm going to go back to this innate talent that I think I have.
When you look at Rubicon, it's also, it's a brand obviously that I'm growing. It goes beyond the clothing itself, because it's a brand that needs to grow as a corporate company, corporate organization one day, and I think it's where it is there, because obviously it's got all the elements of any other business, that encapsulates the whole business itself, right, in terms of running, whether it's HR, whether it's accounts, whether it's marketing, all those caps, they are all entailed in Rubicon.
How difficult is it to move from being a small operation that starts off in the home to this vision that you talk about now of having a fully fledged corporate with divisions, and that has a very recognizable brand in the front?
If you check Rubicon, it didn't start off from home. It started off with its own flagship store. And of course, any business has got its downfall, but I did not give up. Obviously, I persevered, and I realized that's where I need to, obviously carry on with, in terms of growing the business. I had a store in Pretoria back in 2002, and then from then onwards, things didn't go too well. And I went back from operating from home, which worked for that moment, but I realized I needed a bigger space. Yeah.
And let's talk about those lessons that you must have learned from, as you say, a bit of a tough time in the early days. What did you take out of that?
It was a learning curve for me, and it was very difficult. And again, obviously you grow when you face challenges. Any challenges, they grow you, and I'm able to stand knowing, any kind of storm that can come my way, I'm able to deal with it.
Let's talk about the Rubicon vision. You started off with the flagship store, but you've made the breakthrough into retail. Where to from here?
Of course, we'll start with the UK, because obviously we've been in negotiations with people from there, and it's been going on for like 4 years now, and I'm hoping that everything will go as smooth as I anticipate.
Why are you anticipating a positive reception from that market?
Because they look, there are people that buy from there, from the UK, and also other countries like Nigeria, Botswana, US. There are people that do order, because look at us, we are really producing really international standard, of clothing. It's not like we're just making clothing from the backyard.
Let's talk about Hangwani at home and in your personal space. What are the big considerations that you make before you commit to a financial decision?
With Rubicon, there was no any other capital injection except for my own, because I had a property that obviously I had to sell, to get that capital injection to draw it from that, and obviously having trying to balance, because I'm a I'm a mother, you know, and I'm a wife, you know, balancing, but I've got a very understanding family, and I've got a great support system from home. So it makes it quite easier. And I'm actually very, you know, spiritually balanced as well. So
very quickly before we let you go, you've spoken about balance quite a bit now. So does work-life balance exist?
It does exist if you've got, you know, a great support system in terms of work, you know, like, because sometimes when in SA, the problem is that we look at if Hangwani has got a business, it's only Hangwani. There are other people, it's a team role. I've got a great team that I work with, and it's amazing.
Names like David Tlale, Gavin Raja and Gert Johan Kutsia still dominate South Africa's fashion scene. So are male designers beating women at their own game? Well, our producer Paula Gilbert sat down with the Executive Director and Chief Executive of the South African National Fashion Council, Anita Stanbury, to find out if female designers are holding their own in the industry.
If you think back in South Africa, we've had the likes of Marianne Fazler and Cheryl Arthur, who was running hip-hop clothing. And more recently, we've got some amazing talent coming through. One of the more recent Elle Rising Star designer talent winners was Anisa. And Anisa Mpungwe runs a range called Loin Cloth and Ashes. So we really do have some up-and-coming amazing designers, Colleen Eitson. You know, so we need to have a look and say, yes, although you've got David Tlale and Gavin Raja and Hendrik Vermeulen Couture, which appear to be the name brands that we're seeing overseas, we're going to be seeing a lot more female designers coming through in the future.
Okay, this is an industry where there's a lot of potential for job creation, but what are the real numbers in terms of how many jobs are created each year, and what kind of impact is it having on GDP?
Well, if you have a look at the clothing industry, it's a sector that apparel in this country is worth over 100 billion. And we need to try and have a look. At the moment, there's only about 80,000 jobs that are employed, you know, people that are employed within the clothing sector. But with the fast fashion and quick response, which we're busy implementing at the moment, which will grow local retail consumption from 25% to 40%, we're going to see a growth in employment from 80,000 to about 155,000 jobs, which will be awesome for the industry.
Do you think that government regulations are helping the industry in terms of protecting it from imports?
It's not about the protectionism, because we have maximum protectionism, 45% duty on imported garments, but it's more about growing. So it's the industrial policy of growing the industry, which actually the Department of Trade and Industry have been very, very instrumental in helping to see a turnaround and a growth in the clothing, textiles and fashion sector. Over the last few years, they've actually put more than 3.2 billion into the clothing and textile value chain, and at the moment it's entities such as the South African National Fashion Council and SASTAC, which are being funded through the Department of Trade and Industry, who are able to roll out programs like the production incentive, which means that companies can actually buy machinery and equipment using Department of Trade and Industry funding, and then the competitiveness improvement program, which allows your retailers to develop up their value chains. And we've actually seen some of our retailers buying into their value chain, where they're buying some of the manufacturers to make sure that they have the capacity available to do the quick response and quick turnaround on garments being manufactured locally.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the SA fashion designers that are doing really well overseas.
Yeah, okay, obviously we've just had David Tlale coming back from overseas, and I mean, this is the 5th year that he's been at New York Fashion Week. That is huge. I don't think a lot of people understand, to get onto an international platform when we have 7 billion people in the world who could potentially be there, and to be the one that ends up there is a magnificent achievement. And the same with Hendrik Vermeulen, who made it to Alta Roma this year again. And we have a look at some of the work that goes into it, the models. You know, we always look at just the designs, that are going out there on the runway. But there's a lot of work. The team that works with David Clowley and Hendrik Vermeulen and Gavin Raja in the background, whether they are helping with the patterns, with the sewing, with the beadwork, we forget that it's very much a team effort to get the products out there and to sustain them in that international environment.
Okay, so when these designers go to London Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week, how much does it really cost them, and what kind of returns are they getting on it?
Okay, we're looking at more than R1 million to do a show. And it was interesting, I was chatting to Anna Fremantle from the Edinburgh Fashion Festival, and she said to me some of those shows like Burberry and that they do at London Fashion Week cost £2 million per show. So it's not small change. But when I had this discussion with David and with Hendrik Vermeulen, they said to me, although it's expensive up front to invest in yourself, and you don't see initially the returns, they both have said to me that they're starting to see that return on investment now, which is amazing. So yes, it takes a couple of years, but you have to invest in your brand and you have to believe in yourself. And I think those that have true talent, that are good at marketing themselves and are good at using their value chain, are the ones who are going to be able to see that return on investment.
Every week we bring you a woman who is flexing her power muscles on the global stage. Let's take a look at rising fashion star Anisa Mpungwe. Anisa Mpungwe launched Loin Cloth and Ashes in 2008 and quickly gained recognition by winning the Elle New Talent Design Award. And since then, her star has continued to rise. The Tanzanian-born designer is now based in South Africa, but her clothes have graced the runways at international fashion weeks in Angola, Sweden, and Fashion Mecca, New York. The designer has had a long-standing relationship with Mr. Price and has designed a number of ranges for the retailer while also running her flagship store in Johannesburg's Maboneng precinct. That's all we have time for this week on Women on Wealth. Thank you for making the time to join us. Remember that we would like to hear from you, so keep the conversation going on Twitter. That's by following me at Nozipho Mbanjwa. Send us your thoughts about the show, any questions, any suggestions on who you'd like to see profiled and who you'd like to see on the couch. The hashtag to use, of course, is Wow410. Let us know who is redefining the concept of power in your world. Until next time, stay empowered.